Hi everyone, my name is Kelly Agnew. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a certified nutritional practitioner, also known as a holistic nutritionist, and I'm the founder behind Kelly My Nutrition. I work with women to help them support their health through life's big moments and during the in-between. So this can be anything from day-to-day stress management or hormone balancing to big things like fertility, pregnancy, and adrenal support and adrenal fatigue. So that's actually why I'm here to talk to you today. I'm here to share about my experience and the 4 key pillars that I consider being essential to supporting your body if you're burnt out or if you're going through adrenal fatigue. So what makes me an expert on this? Well, first of all, I'm a holistic nutritionist. So I have training and experience in nutrition as a way to support the body and healing modalities. But also I am a 2-time survivor of burnout and adrenal fatigue. The very first time was about 3 years ago. I burnt out at work. So I was in a career where I was working way too much. I was giving way too much of my energy into, and it was not a great work environment. And so I was experiencing burnout and adrenal fatigue because of how I was living my life. So after that, I ended up changing my situation a little bit. I ended up going to work at a different company, and then I burnt out again. But this time it was different. It wasn't related to work. It was actually related to my personal life. So we were going through some struggles with family. I was experiencing a lot of different things personally in my life. So I ended up burning out a second time. So for me, burnout symptoms ended up showing themselves in a lot of different ways. So I ended up experiencing a lot of different things like dizziness. I had, my muscles were totally weak. I would have trouble walking sometimes. I ended up having memory loss, brain fog, exhaustion. I was drained. I was falling asleep at 7 p.m. every night. It was brutal. So the symptoms for burnout and adrenal fatigue can be totally different, and they can vary depending on who you are. So first, we're going to get a little bit into what adrenal fatigue and burnout specifically is. Adrenal fatigue, also known as burnout, can also be known as HPA axis dysfunction. So HPA stands for your hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals. Basically, in your body, you've got the hormone, the endocrine system, and you've got a bunch of different glands responsible for communicating to each other. Your HPA axis actually is what helps you manage stress and helps you respond to stress. The hypothalamus will communicate to the pituitary glands, which will communicate to your adrenals to release things like cortisol, adrenaline, and that kind of stuff that's going to actually help you manage the stressful situation you're in. What happens when you're burnt out? Well, communication doesn't work very well. So if you're exposed to a chronic stress over time, your body's constantly pumping out cortisol. You're pumping out adrenaline as well when that fight or flight situation comes up. But as your body is pumping out this cortisol over long term, your hypothalamus starts to get a little numb to it. And so it actually stops giving the signal to produce more cortisol. In the end, when you burn out and you experience burnout symptoms, it's often because you are not producing as much cortisol anymore, or you're not producing what your body really needs. And that's because you've become excessively exposed to it. So that's what burnout is in a nutshell. And so people can be burnt out with too much cortisol or not enough cortisol. So you can experience in the stages of adrenal fatigue, you can have way too much cortisol, which gets you all wired and you're constantly running on high energy, and then you crash at night. Or you can just be completely drained and exhausted and overwhelmed all the time. And that's often when you're showing that you have not enough cortisol. So what are the 4 key pillars to supporting your body? These are things that I have noticed in my personal experience and what has really helped me. So the very first one is diet. Of course, I'm going to talk about that as a nutritionist, but the number one thing that you need to do to support your body in burnout is to eat a nutrient-dense whole foods diet. Key for so many reasons, but I'm going to touch on a few of the big ones. Number 1. Fats and proteins at every single meal will help to balance your blood sugar. If your blood sugar is balanced, your energy will be more balanced during the day. If you have adrenal fatigue, you're probably exhausted, you're probably drained, you're probably having a hard time even producing as much energy as you really need to do your daily tasks. At least by eating whole foods like proteins, fats, vegetables, you're going to have a steadier stream of energy. You're not going to experience those blood sugar spikes like you would if you were having refined foods or tons of sugar all the time. Another reason why those whole foods are so important is because eating lots of vegetables and eating lots of fruits is going to give you those antioxidants that your body needs to fight both inflammation, which adds more stress to the body, but also to really just support you and give you the nutrients that you need to thrive. Another reason why diet is so important is because you need to make sure you're drinking enough water. Everybody talks about how important water is, so this is really nothing new. But water is essential for so many of the activities that happen in your body, for metabolism and just for general cellular growth and cellular survival. I mean, everything that's done in your body is done in a medium of water. So make sure you're drinking water. It actually will help boost your energy, and it'll help make sure you're flushing out what you need to. The last thing, well, I guess it's not the last thing. There's a ton of things you can do with diet, but the last thing I want to touch on today is the importance of breaking up with coffee. And I've talked about this before. I've shared a blog post on this even, but it's so important that you break that dependency on coffee. So many people, because they're exhausted, they wake up and have a cup of coffee, or they end up having a cup of coffee after lunch because they're going to have their afternoon crash. That's normal. But actually it's not. Your body should not depend on coffee to keep you alert and keep you energized and awake all day. And the fact that you're depending on it is a problem. Coffee actually adds more stress to the body. So if you're already experiencing adrenal fatigue, coffee can actually stress the body even more. Same thing, if you end up having too much coffee, you're going to deplete your body of some of the essential nutrients that it's like your vitamin B, your vitamin C, and your magnesium. Magnesium is so key for your nerves. Vitamin B and C are so, well, vitamin B, BComplex, all the B vitamins I'm really referring to are so important for energy production as well as cortisol production. So if you deplete those out of your body, you're going to have a hard time making that stuff even when your brain's telling you to try. So that's diet. Diet is the first key pillar to supporting your body. The second is supplementation. So supplements are super, super important. And the only reason why I really advocate them is because I feel like the foods these days, and we know this already, the food these days is not as nutrient dense as it used to be at one point. So our soils are becoming depleted. And as a result, the foods that we're eating are not necessarily giving us everything that our body needs to thrive. For the day-to-day and average person, this might be okay. But if you're experiencing adrenal fatigue, or you're experiencing something where you're already in a state of depletion, you need additional vitamins and support, you may need to supplement. Some of the key ones to supplement if you're looking at vitamins and minerals is your magnesium. I've kind of said that before. It's super important to have enough magnesium in your body for calming nature, as well as to help with muscle relaxing, that kind of thing. So if you have challenges sleeping, I recommend looking into taking some magnesium just before bed. However, again, because I don't know your personal situation and all the supplements that I talk about here, it is just a general education. I'm not saying that I recommend this specifically for you. You'll have to talk to a healthcare provider because some of these supplements may actually be contraindicated in certain situations and also might interfere with some medication. So always be aware of that. The other thing I would typically recommend to a client is a BComplex. So we've talked a little bit about how important the B vitamins are for energy production, as well as creating cortisol. So I would recommend to a typical client to take a BComplex to help support with this. Similarly, vitamin C. So we talked a bit about that too. Vitamin C is number one, an antioxidant, and number two, it also helps with cortisol production. So vitamin C is another key one that's really good to consider supplementing with. There are lots of different herbs that are really awesome to support our body. So things like adaptogens. If you are interested in looking for adrenal or stress response support, look into those adaptogens. Things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, you've probably heard of these. They're all really great to help our body adapt to managing stress, which is something that we struggle with if we're going through adrenal fatigue. Other supplements that might be interesting to consider are digestive supplements. So if you're experiencing digestive distress, looking into things like a probiotic can be really helpful. Or there's a lot of really interesting research coming out these days on medicinal mushrooms. So things like reishi, a lot of those mushrooms are very interesting. They have immune boosting properties, but some of them are also really calming. The third pillar that I want to talk about is lifestyle. And this is the one where I actually saw the biggest change for myself. And I would say that no matter what you do to support your body through adrenal fatigue, you have to look at lifestyle. It's so, so important. So number one is knowing what drains your energy. So where is your energy going? What's stressing you out? Take a hard look at those things and see, what can you change? What can you adapt? Is there anything you can do to be flexible around that? Can you reduce the amount of things in your life that you're draining energy and putting it into without getting anything back? The second thing is making sure you're not overexerting yourself. So we have a tendency to say yes to everything, to take on everything that we possibly can, but it's really important to guard our boundaries and guard our energy. Say no if it's something that you don't want to do. Say no if you need time at home to relax. Say no if you've been literally running around all week and you feel so overwhelmed, you have no idea how you can take on anything else. Say no. Learn how to do that. It's one of the best pieces of advice you can ever get. The other thing I want to talk about in lifestyle is really just making sure that as you're stressed out, as you're going through these feelings of, anxiety or exhaustion or whatever it may be, that you have some really good self-care techniques. So this can be any type of, body movement, exercise, yoga. Yoga is amazing, especially restorative yoga for those who are struggling with adrenal fatigue. Other things like making sure you're sleeping long enough, because having at least 8 hours of sleep a night is so key. While you're sleeping, your hormones reset themselves and your body cleans up so much metabolic waste, and you do a lot of your learning and your processing in your sleep. So make sure you're sleeping long enough. Having really important lifestyle and self-care setup is key to supporting your body. The fourth pillar, and this is one that people often forget, but it's actually also just as important as lifestyle, is mindset. So you need to really, truly believe that your body can heal. You need to believe that your body can do whatever is necessary to bring yourself back to balance, because it can. You may be experiencing all these bizarre symptoms right now and you don't know why. You don't know where they came from, and you're frustrated with yourself because you're pissed off because your body is telling you all these things like, I'm exhausted, I'm drained, I can't do anything. But it got there because you ignored the signs before. They may have been very quiet signs, but there were signs. Adrenal fatigue is a continuum. It's not like you're totally fine and then one day, bam, you're adrenally fatigued or you're burnt out. That's not how it works. So tuning into your body and knowing those signs is really important, but also so is recognizing that your body is telling you to relax. It's being your friend. It's trying to give you a sign here to say, hold on, we need to calm down. So that's my 4 pillars. So if you want to learn more about any of those, I have some articles on my blog specifically for some of those, but I do plan to share more down the road. So I wanted to say, if you really like this video, feel free to like it, to share it with your friends and family, because chances are you know somebody who's burnt out or somebody who's going through some serious chronic stress and may need a little bit of support. So I hope that some of these pieces of advice were tangible and you feel like it's something that you could consider including in your life. And if you liked what you heard, feel free to follow my page if you don't already at Kelly Maya Nutrition, where you're going to find a lot more about this kind of stuff. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk later.